Oh, hey guys, today we're going to be looking at the Argostar cards once again, and honestly, Argostars, they kind of suck for one simple reason. It's kind of like the same reason branded can kind of suck sometimes. It's like, uh, I activate branded fusion. Oh, you have a card that did a thing to stop my branded fusion? Well then, good game. That's kind of the vibe with Argostars, right? So we have Glorious Audra here, and I did miss one thing with Argostars, and that was simply that you can summon this off of MX Saber Invoker because it's an Earth Warrior. But aside from that, uh, if we go ahead and look at the effect for Argo Stars Glorious Audra, we have a few effects. So the first one, not super relevant. During your opponent's turn, if you control a continuous trap card, quick effect, you can banish this card from your hand, make the attack of one monster on the field 0 until the end of the turn. I honestly thought that this was going to be related to the archetype somehow, but apparently not. That this seems to do like absolutely nothing. But all right. Next two effects. If this card is normal summon this turn, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to the activation of your continuous trap cards or their effects. That is a little bit useful because with the quick play spell, Giant Slaying, it has the effect of allowing you to normal summon a monster, specifically a warrior monster. So in this case, we can do add Adra, normal summon Adra, and then I'll trigger this effect. Also, let me ask a quick question. If I normal summon Glorious Adra on my opponent's turn, what is the Adra doing? This and only this. Okay. How about Fierce Parthe? Okay, let's see. Nothing. These only have ignition effects on the field. They are not quick effects, so that does a whole load of nothing. You can reveal this card in your hand, return one Argostar's continuous trap you control to the hand, and if you do special summon this card, you can do that, I guess, but putting your Argostar's actual main deck monsters on the field, they actually do genuinely nothing. So that kind of sucks, but if we focus on what the deck actually can do now, so we have this effect. You can banish this card you control, place up to 2 Argostar's continuous traps with different names from your hand and or deck face up in your spell and trap zone. So because we're placing continuous traps, this bypasses essentially Purge and Ash Blossom Joy Spring, but it's very susceptible to infinite impermanence and effect failure. So if we're assuming our opponent is on Blue Eyes and they're playing, let's say, I guess it would probably be effect failure and imperm, we'll go with 6 total for each, then there is a 50% chance that we can just resolve Glorious Adra. And this is just disregarding the fact that we have access to the Adra, right? Because, sometimes we might not have access to it, and then we're going to lose because you need access to Adra or else this deck just doesn't function. But I mean, we can do some things about that. But alright. With Adra, if we were to normal summon Adra, then Imperm or Effect Failure will be able to activate on the Adra, and it's not going to be resolving. And then your deck doesn't work, and also all of your cards are kind of like bricky. They're kind of like garnets, so that also sucks. And in fact, does this place from hand? Yes. So they're not like garnets per se, but yeah, come on. These cards are all kind of terrible. Yeah. So garnets it is. All right. So with Adra, then, what we could do to prevent this issue is, I mean, it's not going to be like that insane, but technically we have a few options. So the first is obviously Omni Negate. If we have an Omni Negate, then, we'll negate whatever they're trying to negate us with, and then Adra will resolve. That's idea number 1. Idea number 2, maybe we could try a Spell Trap Negate, but then what if they just throw an Effect Failure at us? So that doesn't work. Okay, how about Sprite Elf? If we have a Sprite Elf on field, then Adra can't be targeted. That's pretty solid. Unless our opponent happens to have 2 like Imperms, then we can Imperm the Elf, then Imperm the Adra, which Yeah. I mean, if they have it, they have it. They're just better. Okay. So, what else could we attempt to do here? Well, if that's the case, then there's also an option of technically trying to make our entire board just completely untargetable, period. So unlike Sprite Elf, then there's the option of maybe Mud Dragon, or I guess if you're feeling particularly ill, there is uh the Vendread 8. Yeah, I mean that's a bit too much for me to take too. So yeah, probably not that, but Sprite Elf probably fairly reasonable because it's generic to make. But how do we make it? I guess the most reasonable way to do that would be maybe Fiendsmith. But yeah, of course that sounds lame. And then for rank 3 to make MX Saber Invoker, we could easily do Terror Top. We could also make well, we could use the punk cards to try to make this as well, you know? Or, yeah, we can make MX Saber Invoker, and that can get us into the Adra as well. And a few other ideas like that. We could try using the Vernacells because Earth Warrior, Earth Monster should work, I think, maybe, depending on how the ruling works with these cards. I'm actually not 100% sure, so we'll just put that in the back burner until I uh, have time to, I guess, test this stuff out. But all right, what other ideas do we have to just essentially get just Adra to resolve? Like, we're just going to assume, at least for the time being, that we have access to Adra. If we have access to Adra, well, we also have to consider how we're putting Adra on the field. Like, if we were to special summon Adra, that's technically an option with something like an Ancient Fairy Dragon. We could do that, and we could gain access to this field spell, or we could get this field spell off the field and get access to some other field spell, which is technically possible, right? And the type of play that we want to make here, like, I saw a comment about Silhat, and I think Silhat is just terrible because you have to like link off 2 continuous traps to then make Silhat, but we could use those bodies for other things aside from Silhat. So unless we're playing like another engine and that engine goes into Silhat, I don't think there's a reason to play Silhat in Argostars because it's unironically just too inefficient with the resources you kind of have with this deck. And also Silhat is like very slow because it just sets a continuous trap. I have seen the idea of like that's 10 because well, let's see if I can find it here. Well, spelling, huh? Let's see. 10. 10, 10, 10. Let's see, where is it? Should be a continuous, I think. Or is the card name something different? Wait, is it 10 like this? Well, how annoying, because it's showing things with, yeah, okay. The 10? Nope. This hasn't narrowed it down at all. Okay. I believe it should be a continuous trap. So, or not continuous trap, continuous spell. That should narrow it down a little bit. Aha, that's 10. That's also very hard to search. Okay, 10 with an exclamation point. Alright. So, this card, if we could manage to resolve this, we would also have to open this, which is a little bit annoying, but I'm now noticing that this card has what's called a lack of a hard once per turn. And technically, doesn't this have insane synergy with the card that has kind of similar artwork, I guess? I'm not sure how many copies of this card you would play, but it's like kind of scuffed a little bit. We have well, what's it called? I actually don't remember. Oh right, you're finished. You're finished if 10 or more cards and or effects have been activating during this or activated during this turn, special summon this card as an effect monster. So you don't need access to this necessarily, but yeah, if you stack that's 10 and then you're finished, this triggers to place like a counter every single time. So this would make your finish very easy to kind of stack up, I guess. But yeah, this is no hard ones per turn or anything, so you could technically have 3 that's 10, but I mean, I don't know how with your remaining cards in hand we really get anything done with this. So kind of awkward in that regard, I suppose. Unless you have like some really insane 1-card combo. So is this card even that good? I guess it's not that good. Going second, kind of more of a funny card, I guess. But yeah, whenever you hit 10 counters on this, you get to set from your deck a continuous trap, and just you can activate it that turn essentially. But all right, well, it has to be one that can special summon itself, so you can't set like skill drain. But yeah. Adra, how are we resolving Adra? So if we were to be playing certain combos like maybe Punk, if we had to normal summon Xiamen, I guess we could make AFD later to summon Adra. That's like plausible. That's like just an idea. Aside from that, you would need to have an engine that does not normal summon at all. There's potentially that, so we can save the normal summon for Adra. So there's that as well. If we want to put a Sprite Elf onto the field, we could maybe do that with like something involving the Argostar, maybe. But like the size of this engine is not small, so that's not great either. And then if we want to play Millennium, you're going to theoretically be playing a bunch of continuous traps at the very least, even if we're not running like that stat, right? I forgot the other end. Alright. So this I'm not really a fan of, and also you would want to have a lot of cards in hand if possible, which is a little bit awkward because of Tideo here, I think. You'll have to discard 1 or 2 cards, I'm thinking, for Tideo to ideally get 2 copies of Eteo. That's what I'm thinking at least. So not a big fan of this. If we wanted to just put Tideo in the graveyard, do we have a good way to do that? No, I guess we can bounce it back and then make it activatable with the Fierce Parth. So that'd be like special summon Tideo, Parth, bounce back, Tideo gets put into the back row, activate Tideo again. So that's discard 2 cards. And you get like 2 searches off of that, like archetypal searches, so yeah. Probably want something that's like insanely efficient. Otherwise, like everything will just kind of crumble. So if we were a card short for this, like if we needed Adra and then we needed a card for the Millenniums to put in the back row for Wiju Temple, and then the actual starter that's like 1, 2, 3 cards already. And then we have exactly enough for 2 discards as well. And then we have no hand traps left, so if we get hit by any board breakers, we're just kind of cooked. So this has to be like pretty much a legit 1-card combo. And then if it were to get interrupted, we'd be okay with normal summoning, like the Adra, right? That's not like super problematic, I don't think. So I'm thinking that I'll just give up on thinking of a viable way to play this like in a competitive sense and just to play it. So if we implement some sort of end, so I'm thinking like we could try Ignites or we could try like Melodious. We'd be able to like maybe hand out the Adra, so we could normal summon something else. Try to build advantage and have cards. So with Pendulum, we could Astrograph loop. Specifically, if we're playing Ignites, we could loop the Ignites a few times. And then these are all kind of warriors. So that's kind of neat. And there are 3s in Ignites, and they don't lock you, right? So we could technically also make a rank 3 with the Ignites if we felt the need to. So yeah, there's that possibility. And we can MX Saber Invoker Special Summon Adra, perhaps. But yeah. I think if we open any 3 Ignites, we could probably make our dreams a reality, and also Astrograph Loop would add us a bunch of Ignite cards that we could then discard for our like Lightning Tideo. So in terms of just combo for like just the pure spectacle, I think that this is somewhat reasonable. And I don't know how many other pen strategies, because this is the only one I've like pretty much studied, aside from that like maybe a little bit of Pen Magician. Not sure how it would synergize with this, because you're running a lot of like funky counter, or not counter traps, continuous traps and stuff. Not 100% sure on the efficiency here, but I think you could probably make it work, yeah. Aside from this, how could we run it so we're really not using our normal summon? Well, in terms of Punk, you do have a new line where you can start with Foxy Tune, I guess. If you start Foxy Tune, grab Xiamen. Xiamen before would have to pretty much add Sharkusai, normal summon, or just like one of the lower level Punks, right? Normal summon it. But now you have the option of adding Rising Scale, so you don't need to normal summon Sharkusai. We banish Foxy, special summon Rising Scale, and then do like essentially Punk combo, which is fine, I guess, because it can get us to our 2/3s, and then we have the extra body with the Rising Scale at the very least. Assuming we're not even bothering to go into like the Rising card, right? We could technically do that. If we want to just play around maybe Effect Failure, then we can also maybe potentially go into Punk Jam Fever, I'm thinking. Depending on how we sequence it, right? Because we could go like Amazing Dragon, bring back a guy, convert this into the Jam Fever, go into the Rising Carp, summon guys. Potentially something like that. That could work. If we want to put Spray Elf onto the field, the only way I can think of, just for the time being, is to do something like in favor for Tract or Tract with Fiendsmith combo, and then I don't even know what you're going to be able to do exactly, but we definitely want Spray Elf at some point, so maybe we go like IP into Spray Elf, and then we'll bring back the IP at some point next turn to make like SP or something. Soul Hat Rabbit is something you wouldn't really super want to make if we're making Spray Elf, I don't think. Because we do need a 2 at some point. Well, actually, if you make Sequence can be your 2. But you have no 2 to bring back for Spray Elf. I don't know if you have room for like Soul Hat in that line. If you do, it's like fine, right? If you don't, it's terrible. Kind of just situational, I guess. So we'll just assume we do have enough. So your combo might have like some guy you send the back row, like an Anguish pattern with the Soul Hat. Spray Elf to make sure the Adra resolves. No access into the Adra, otherwise you're just playing pure Fiendsmith though, which kinda sucks. So in that regard, I think the Ignite would be better if you really want to be playing the Argostars cards and resolving their effects. So that's a thing to consider, I guess. So Argostars can technically also bridge to other things, because since they're warriors, they can make Isolde. If we wanted to go into them, since they're warriors, they're fairly generic, so we could go into them via Isolde as well. And we could go into other things with the Argostars. Like we could straight up do an Argostars FTK if we resolve Adra. Like no joke. Normal summon Adra and then resolving the effect is an FTK, because we can set to essentially warrior effect monsters and summon them. And then yeah, it's kind of GG from there. Hmm. Still not convinced of a super good way to play the deck, I guess, in this case, but hopefully this has been helpful to any aspiring Argostar players. But yeah, I guess that's all I got for you guys today. And if you have any text or just things I might have missed, feel free to share in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.